Tell us a little bit about Cheyney College. Did you, were you active?
Well, in the '43, there were very few men in Cheyney, and then finally I had to leave too. But there was because of the war. The war started. The war started December the 8th, technically, 1941. So, so the enrollment down. You think the enrollment down now? Enrollment really was down in England in the 40s. So it was mostly women out there, and they were far away from Pittsburgh. And I still remember Dorothy Bobo. She was from Pittsburgh. Charles Smith. He was from Pittsburgh. He wanted to go to law school. He was from the group that we went around with briefly at that time. But Cheyney had a lot of those professors there that stayed there a long time. One finally became president of Cheyney, and that was Wade Wilson. Wade Wilson was the dean, and he was also I don't know what you can tell his type of professor, but he was in shop. He did the industrial arts. He was very good. He went from there to the presidency after the. You want to hear about the riot? The riot. Yeah, well, the riot came in, but we're up in the '60s now. But the riot came because Allen, who was the president of the school, put in a budget for $941,000, and it was rejected.
Who rejected the budget?
At that time,
the
state rejected the budget, saying, no, we're not going to give you that kind of money. And it was terrible, because Moses had that house on the corner right across from the campus, and we took our lights out there, because they were really afraid, because the students did some damage out there. Wade Wilson came to the forefront, and he confronted Harrisburg. They made him president, whatever the process was. And he confronted Harrisburg. And when he confronted Harrisburg, $900 and some thousand, he came away, and I remember it, he came away with $15 million. $15 million for buildings and everything else. So his tenure as president was dominant. He was a dominant figure, because a couple of students came up and they wanted to challenge him something. He said, "You want to challenge me? Come on. Took off his coat. That quelled that down. I mean, he really did.
15 million over several years.
He came away with $15 million. This one fellow Allen was asked for $941,000. And when Wade Wilson went up there, and see, you have to realize that trustee boards and presidents have what they call autonomy then. I was on the board at West University. When I first went on the board, until I came off, we had autonomy, which meant that we could do anything we wanted to do if we could get it done. Now, if you could get enough representatives, whether in the House or the Senate, and it pass your bill or whatever you wanted done, you get it done. Now, the most powerful person was a senator from Indiana. That's why Indiana was known as a university long before anybody else. The second most powerful person was a fellow named Charles Swope from Westchester. And he could get anything he wanted done. He got 21 buildings. I was his vice chairman. But he got 21 buildings. I think in his book he said 22. I remember 21, so maybe 22. And because he could get this legislator, John Stauffer, he could get the governor, Thornbury, and then there was another one, Bradford. He could get them to say, okay, you can have the money. Cheyney had nobody to do, except when Wade Wilson up there, and he got enough senators up there to give him his $15 million. Now, I think, I never thought about it before until you just posed the question about did he get it over a period of years? No, I think he got it then. Which, when they didn't want to give Allen that little $941,000.
And what do you think the talking points were? What made him change things?
He knew what Cheyney needed. He'd been there a long time, and he got it. And Allen, I guess, was just trying to pass a budget to take care of annual expenses. But he said, no, this is what Cheyney needs. And he went from, legislative to legislator, which when I was on the board, we kind of said that university didn't need an educator as being president. They need somebody in there who knew how to raise money and knew who to touch. Mostly like people in Washington, what do we call them now? Lobbyists. That's what they need, because even when they do become president, when a few years ago when Madam Adler became president of Westchester University, she spent most of the time in California with these alumni groups in Florida and get $12 million here, $10 million there, raising the money. She's put up with so many beautiful buildings, but that's rambling again. That's coming way over at this part.
But the university has grown substantially since that era. And how do you think, what was the impact? Did education, was there a difference in terms of how the student experience
Well, yeah.
was?
But see, the whole thing changed when they got a chancellor. Now, the chancellor was supposed to be where everybody filters their stuff through and it comes out, everybody gets something equally. Maybe. But Cheyney still is a stepchild of the whole education system. Now, they have somebody out there now, they just had the 175th anniversary of Cheyney University a few weeks ago. But if you read the salary of the different presidents of the university, Cheyney president still gets less than everybody else. So you get those figures someplace. Westchester University, the president there gets near the top. I think maybe Indiana still gets the bulk of it. But now, Westchester only became big for two reasons. One, the dynamic leader of that school was Charles Swope. Now, all the time that Cheyney and Westchester should be doing something together, it never happened. Because Cheyney always had the rumor, and so help me, that was in 1940-something, and the rumor still exists in 2012 that Westchester want to take over Cheyney. I was on the board. That was the only thing they were afraid of. And it really kept the two apart, because somebody kept saying they want to take you over, and Westchester saying we don't want to take them over, and so they really never got together to do anything together, because Cheyney had the grounds, they had the space, they had the classrooms, and they could have done, and the Westchester University had the teachers, they could have done a lot of things together, but Cheyney was afraid of losing the identity if they did anything with any other school, that's really sort of kept them back, themselves. But you cannot tell those people today, and we've got what, second or third generation of teachers. I don't know what they orientate when they come in or not, that don't believe that there wasn't some kind of devious part on Westchester University to swallow up Cheyney. And believe me, that wasn't it. No. And then when Westchester finally acquired the 250 acres, that took them away from being a little small school in the confines of the city blocks of Westchester. Now, Rosedale Avenue. If you're going south from Rosedale Avenue, or west, whatever you want to call it, everything on the right's Westchester, everything on the other side of the street is West Goshen. But when Charlie found out they could get that 250 acres down there, then all the historians and people came out to protest in front of the board. You do not need 250 acres. You got all you need right here. Bottom line, went from 2,000 faculty and staff to 12,000. They would have, if they didn't, I don't know how he bought it, but I voted for it. If it hadn't bought that land, there'd still been a little small school like Cheyney. But he was able to buy it. And there's the part where, Cheyney didn't have that kind of connection. Now, they do have Cheyney has a great cadre of support when the accreditation school comes out and they find something wrong. Man, they come out there, you're just trying to close Cheyney up. You're just trying to do this here. Your Philadelphia politicians, some of them sit on the board out there. They come out and then after the accreditation storm is over, then you don't hear from them anymore. The most prominent person that came out of Cheyney was news commentator.
Oh, Bill Bradley.
Yeah, Bradley. I saw an article in the paper about Cheyney in the early 90s, I think it was, or no, it has to be in the 80s, where the biggest donation that they have ever received from alumnus was $40,000. That was and the reason I noticed it because I knew the lady. She left them $40,000, and to that point, that was the biggest contribution they have.
And I stand corrected, it's Ed Bradley, I said.
Ed Bradley. Yeah, that's
Bill
why.
Bradley's a basketball player.
That's why I didn't jump in on that. Yeah, Ed Bradley.
Ed Bradley.
Yeah. So that's just some of the Cheyney and the Westchester community are tied in by one person, Leslie Pinckney Hill.
I love this education theme. It's been very rich. I'd like to, if we could,
Yeah, okay.
explore secondary education. I know from other interviews that many Thornbury residents went to Westchester, what's now Henderson. I was wondering if you could comment on what you could tell us about the transition of life in a small rural setting to the kinds of things that students experienced as they arrived in Westchester.
Well, now I can't tell you too much about what their personal experience was, except this is very important. When they decided to come to Westchester State Teachers College, they were not allowed on campus, as far as housing and boarding is concerned. They had designated Afro-American homes where people would take them in, and they would have to stay there for the 4 years. They could come to classes. One of the fellows who I talked to when I got here was a fellow named Jimmy Ward. He was brought in from Tyrone, Pennsylvania, because he was a good track man. In fact, they were so fast they used to call him Rabbit. That was his nickname. And when he came, Killinger liked him so much, he put him on a football team, but he still couldn't stay on the campus. One of the classes that he had to take.
What year was this?
I would say Jimmy was in the 40s. One of the things that class he used to take was called phys ed, and one of the courses in phys ed, of course, is swimming, the length of the pool down the Y. But when he got to the Y, you can't get in the water here. He said, well, he didn't. He came from a place called Tyrone, Pennsylvania. There's nice people up there, and he didn't understand what he was talking about. So he was ready to jump in the water. And I said, oh, no. So he said, well, if I can't get an award, how am I going to pay? You already got an A. You passed, you already got an A. I used to tell that story over and over again, especially when you get a chance to talk to people from Westchester University. No, he wasn't even allowed to get in the water, but he got an A for his whole phys ed course. You know, he got an A for that.
What's interesting today is that the swimming coach at Westchester University is an African American.
Yeah.
Jenkins. And so it's really interesting, that story. I had a question. I know that in talking to relatives of the Hills, that the Hill children, when they were growing up on Cheyney's campus, Leslie Pinckney Hill's children that were high school of age, they would take the train in to Westchester.
Yeah.
And literally would arrive late, but were
Yeah.
allowed to come
Yeah.
late because they were coming from Cheyney on the train.
Yeah, they had a permanent late pass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Permanent pass.
yeah, right, yeah. Well, see now, the connection between, actually Lester Pinckney Hill made a connection between Cheyney and Westchester, which still stands today. And we have original pictures of what's called the Westchester Community Center. But when he established that, and in their charter, it says this is for people of all races, creeds, and colors, some words to that effect. But if you read the charter, you can see it was an interracial thing that everybody was welcome to support this. And they had that piece of property there, and which is worth more than anybody can think of right now. And now, if you look at it in the original picture, that little building there was the original thing that Leslie Pinckney Hill, and his picture is still hanging right there in the main auditorium, which a little bit larger than this room here now, you know, but it was huge then. And they had a lot of connection. Cheyney students would come in and they would tutor some of the other community people. And then we had a fellow named Charles Melton who did a tremendous job of keeping that legacy going. But Leslie Pinckney Hill, I think, was the main person that knew that this relationship had to be established to pull the two communities together. Now, I think somewhere along that, some is probably lost because I don't hear many of the past presidents carrying on that tradition of the relationship. Although I have not been that close to the activities on the community center, I think I'm close enough to know that there's a lot of activity, and there probably could be or should be a lot of activity between those two communities because Leslie Pinckney Hill, he poured out his heart with effort for the Cheyney, and they had a lot of relationship.